So between all my lawn care and houseplant care, I found that I don't have a lot of storage area for all the supplies that I use. And every time I repot a plant, it makes a mess everywhere. So I partnered with my friends over at the Home Depot and Scott's MiracleGro to build this potting bench to give myself some storage, as well as a place to repot plants to keep the mess controlled. If you want to build one of your own, stay tuned. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe and like the video. It really helps me out. For the bottom storage platform, I'm using a 2x4 as a spacer to elevate it off of the ground. Then I'm marking where I want to drill the holes to secure the platform base to the legs. With the marks in place, I'm drilling about halfway through the side of the 2x4 with a 3/8 inch drill bit. This will allow for the 3-inch screws that I'm using to secure the pieces together tightly. Now you can see at this angle why I needed to drill the holes in specific spots, because I need to offset the location of the screws to avoid them running into each other. Then it's just a matter of doing this all the way around the whole thing to create the base of the project. Once I have the frame totally set up, then I just add these 2x4 pieces to create the platform. This is pretty straightforward. You can use just about anything to create a spacing gap. I'm personally using leftover pieces of tile from another project that I had been working on to give me about a 1/4 inch gap between each board. So here I added a screw to the right side of each board on the front and back, and I thought that that would prevent the boards from twisting. Unfortunately, that's not the case, so you don't see it just yet, but you'll see it a little later on, where I added a second screw to the back side just to make everything nice and stable. And in the end, apparently math is hard. I thought I had measured to ensure that the last piece would fit perfectly, but apparently I was wrong. So I needed to cut a little bit off this last piece with my table saw, and now it fits nice and snug. Alright, so the platform is done. Now, I accomplished my goal of using no pocket hole screws in this entire construction. I did that by drilling into the 2x4 from the side to give myself a little bit of leverage, getting about halfway through the stub. Now, does it work? Yes, it works. It's sturdy. Was it the best option? Probably not. The best option, I think, still is pocket hole screws. So I'm going back on what I said. I'm getting my pocket hole jig, and we're doing pocket hole screws for the supports for this. So, yeah. Sometimes you just got to make an adjustment. So yes, I had to swallow my pride a little bit, admit that pocket holes were a superior attachment method for this project, and move on. So I'm adding pocket holes to the remaining support pieces for the front and back of the build, but I'm not adding them to the side pieces. Those I'll still attach with screws drilled straight on through. And now with all my pocket holes drilled, we get back to the assembly process. Alright, so we got the frame built. Now I gotta get it down from here because this thing weighs like 100 pounds, and that's not being figurative. That is literal. This thing weighs about 100 pounds. So this could get a little awkward, but it's got to come down somehow, right? Now the last thing I need to install before I paint are the blocks that are going to support the heavy-duty plastic bin that I'm going to use as a sink. Then I just hit the rough spots with a quick sanding, and you're going to notice here that I masked off the slats at the bottom platform. I don't want those painted, and I kind of intended on installing those after painting, but I forgot. So paper and tape to the rescue. For the paint, I'm using Behr exterior paint in a semi-gloss finish, which will be the most durable and easy to clean. For the color, Behr has such a vast array of different colors, all sorts of great bougie names, so of course, I went with this color called black. Yeah, good old trusty black. Alright, so the last big thing I need to do is make a countertop out of some 2x4s for the potting bench. I'm going to join up the edges to make them nice and flat so that I can glue them up and make a countertop. So, yeah. I think this will look good. Now with all my pieces jointed, I apply a nice liberal smothering of glue. Of course, with the proper application technique being crucial to the success of this glue up. Then I just clamp them up, again with maximum effort given. And with that, we call it a wrap on day one. We want to let this glue set up overnight and get back to the build tomorrow. Okay, so since the countertop is so large, I intended to use my hand plane to smooth everything out, but I don't have a workbench that's stable enough to really use the hand plane properly, so can't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up cutting the countertop in half so that I can run it through my benchtop planer. That should smooth it out. Then I'll just glue those two pieces back up. I should be able to get those real nice and level to where I just need to sand it to get them perfectly smooth when I'm done. So we're going to pivot again just a little bit and get back to work. So here we go. I'm cutting the counter straight down the middle along one of the glue up seams. Now I can run these through my planer, which will bring the thickness down a little bit, and everything will be nice and level. And now we can glue this back up. And then I'm drilling a hole into the base of the plastic bin that I'm using as a sink for the drain. Then I'm just notching it out with my utility knife until the drain fits. Now I gave the counter a few hours of setup, which should be fine as long as I don't put too much pressure on the freshly glued joint. So here I'm marking where the frame meets the countertop so I can trim the edges. Now I want to have about a 1/2 inch overhang for the counters, so I marked a line a little bit past the marking I did from the frame to cut with my 12-inch sliding miter saw. Then I just finished the cut with a circular saw and a speed square to guide it. I'm going to mark the cuts for my back piece. I'm adding this just so that tools don't roll off the back of the bench. Now I'll mark where the supports are for the sink that I'm going to put in. Line up upside down where the sink will sit. Trace the sink outline, cut it out with my jigsaw, and then I give it a little round over and a good sanding to smooth it all out. Now this sink will just be dropped in, so it's easy to take in and out for cleaning, so I'm testing to make sure that this actually fits. I plan to stain all the bare wood, so I'm going to start with a Varathane wood conditioner that'll help give my stain a nice even coverage. After that's dry, I'm using Varathane's Early American stain, and I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes on the wood before wiping it off. And my last step for the night, I'm applying a spar urethane, which is an outdoor protectant which comes in this nice, easy, convenient spray can. Okay, let's wrap up this project. So for this backer piece, I'm installing the screws at the bottom so that they're going to be covered by the countertop. And then for our grand finale, the counter. Okay, so for mounting the countertop, I'm not going to really be able to show what I'm doing because the countertop's going to be on here. I'm going to be underneath. There's not a lot of room to get the camera under there. So let me just show you what I'm using. I'm using these little angle brackets. They have holes right there and there. So it'll attach right here. So I'll drill into the frame and then again up into the countertop, and that'll hold it in place. So that's what I'm doing for the countertop. And we add a couple finishing touches. I'm going to add hooks for my gardening tools, and arguably the most essential addition to this build, a bottle opener, because why not? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my completed potting bench in action. Now this sink works absolutely flawlessly, and when I'm done I can take all the water that's collected in the bucket and pour it straight into my garden, so it's perfect. So there we go, we have a potting bench, and it's got a sink, storage. I mean, what more can you ask for? Huge thank you to Home Depot and Scott's MiracleGro for sponsoring this video. I really appreciate it. And honestly, I can't wait to get started on my next project. So, until next time.